when we conduct pay surveys, we find that not all organisations make the same kinds of choices. We know that some organisations naturally are privileged in one way or another, not least when organisations might be more successful than another. So more successful organisations have deeper pockets. They can be objectively more generous than less successful organisations. We also find that just broad organisational factors can have an influence on the way that organisations interact with the labour market, that labour-intensive industries tend to pay less than technology-intensive industries, that big firms tend to pay more than small firms, and that sometimes organisations make simple, deliberate, strategic choices to pay more because they think that it will provide them with some competitive advantage, that it's strategically useful for them to do so. So there are all kinds of things that influence organisations to behave differently in labour markets. Now, the forms that these differences take can be characterised in a number of different ways. Traditionally, we might understand the way that an organisation approaches a labour market in fairly simplistic terms. So it may be that an organisation just simply attempts to match the market rates of its competitors, that its intention is to not fall behind in terms of their competitiveness in labour markets, that they're not a low payer, but neither are they a high payer. They're hitting the market average, they're matching the market rate. And so the intention of this approach is to avoid dissatisfaction, to make sure that their labour costs are broadly similar to their competitors. It's a neutral strategic choice in terms of labour market intervention. At the top end, organisations might attempt to lead the market, to look around at what its competitors are paying and say, well, we're going to be in that top group, whether it's at the very top, in the top decile, the top quartile, however they choose to define it, but they're going to lead the market. Their rates of pay that they're going to be offering are going to be more attractive than their competitors, which means that they are potentially able to attract more desirable employees who've got maybe a little bit more to offer, who have more choices available to them, and so they want to stand out, to be attractive in some way. And there are all kinds of advantages that are associated with this, that organisations that are more generous, that operate a lead pay policy, tend to have lower levels of turnover. They have lower levels of absenteeism because they're able to attract better recruits into the organisation. Maybe those people are more self-motivated, they require less management, they're more highly skilled, there are fewer mistakes that are associated with their work, all kinds of things that follow on from that. At the bottom end, some organisations may choose to operate a lag policy, that they're paying at the lower end of market rates. Now, generally, this is just seen as an undesirable position to be in terms of your interaction with the labour market, because all of the advantages that we see with the lead policy disappear with interest for an organisation that operates a lag policy. You're not recruiting, never mind the best people in the market, you're not even able to recruit the average candidates in the labour market. You're left with the people that nobody else wants, which then leads you to the kinds of problems that you might expect. High levels of turnover, because as soon as someone has an opportunity to go somewhere that is paying a little bit more, then they will, and there will be many competitors in your labour market who will be paying more than you because you're at the bottom, and so therefore most people are above you, that you may have problems of of absenteeism because people maybe don't feel as committed. They don't feel that the contract between you, certainly the psychological contract, is strong. Less commitment, less satisfaction, and maybe because you're recruiting less able, less attractive people to your organisation, maybe they need much closer management. Maybe the quality of their work isn't going to be as good. So generally the lag policy is to be avoided. There are circumstances where organisations might pursue a lag policy, not because they're cheap, but simply because of the peculiarities of their circumstances. And so it may be that, say for example, an organisation, a high-tech organisation, which might be undercapitalised. It may well be existing on venture capital money, which is going to run out, and so they have to be very careful with it, but they need to attract very highly skilled, highly motivated people. So they're in a bit of a quandary. And so sometimes they operate a lag policy in terms of their base pay, but they make up the difference with other elements of reward, like share options or so on, so that they can broaden their appeal to more highly skilled, highly talented individuals based on the fact that, well, you might be getting paid very little now, but in the future, when all of your hard work pays off, all of these share options will be extremely valuable and you'll be able to enrich yourself. So traditionally, three broad market positions: match policy, lead policy, and the lag policy. Over recent years, organisations have broadened the scope of how they might interact with the market. So we see organisations being more flexible in terms of operating multiple pay policy positions, that they're being a little bit more sophisticated, thinking that for this group of employees, for this job family, we may need to have this competitive orientation, but for a different job family, we can do something else. So it may be that for the most highly skilled, the most difficult to recruit areas of the organisation, they operate a lead policy, but in some other areas of activity where their skill levels are common, where those people are very easy to get, they can operate a match or even a lag policy. Now, of course, this can create problems in terms of the internal comparison, the sense of equity within a pay structure. So organisations that want to adopt this may face problems of dissatisfaction once people start to compare themselves to each other, and they think, why are there such big gaps when maybe the job evaluation system doesn't suggest the justice of that kind of approach. And so organisations need to be aware of that and to prepare for that. And they may want to think that, well, maybe this isn't something they can do everywhere, but maybe only in those areas where job families are particularly discrete. Other organisations have solved the same problem in a different way through outsourcing, which removes the problem of internal comparison to a much more obvious degree. We've seen an increase in emphasis of organisations moving away from just presenting their market position in terms of base pay to emphasise the overall mix of rewards. So we've seen how organisations might attempt to overcome a lag policy by emphasising other more attractive, more competitive elements of the package when they take them as a whole. Organisations may go even beyond this to talk about being an employer of choice, and that employer of choice approaches emphasise not just the transactional reward elements, but also relational elements in terms of their broad market offering. So it's not just the rewards, the incentives, the benefits, and all of those kind of things, but the other relational aspects, the opportunities for career development, the working conditions, the culture of the organisation, that all of these things become part of their offer to the market. And it's not simply about the rate of pay, and it's not simply about those raw competitive figures that need to be emphasised. Another way to kind of transcend these market policy choices is almost to ignore the message of the market entirely, and that where organisations can avoid having to think about broad market groups of people, but rather to think about individual employees, that if they want this person, rather than how attractive are we to a group of people in a market, if we want this person, what might this person want? What are their individual desires? And so the use of cafeteria schemes where people can create almost bespoke reward packages to put together the features that they find desirable, they find attractive, means that organisations can be competitive in a more concrete way with the people that they actually want, rather than with a more abstract idea of a market in general.